Yep. Call the IT committee meeting to order January 3rd, 10:17 a.m. Are there any public comments? Hearing none, we'll go on to the next topic, disaster recovery solution and presentation.
So,
let's do some
introduction.
Intros here first to the new members.
So, what we outsource our IT here, and our partner in that is Area Wide Technologies out of Champaign. We've been partnering with them for 4 years now. Well, I guess that'd be about right? Because it was 6 months after I got here. We had an IT person on staff previously, and shortly after I arrived, he retired. I'm sure no correlation.
It really wasn't.
At that point, we placed an ad for a replacement. We really got one person willing to work for what we were going to pay, and we investigated outsourcing, went through interviewing a couple companies, and we chose Area Wide. So we've been working with them now for 4 years.
Back up even further, though. As it relates to IT, we, in the last 5 years, have replaced everything here. Has it been a little more than 5?
4.
Yeah, 2012. I mean, DevNet, our
DevNet.
tax cycle software, accounting software.
Disparate domains and Windows servers and,
Yes.
and everything that's basically going into the...
What used to happen is each office really had their own server. So Lisa Fancher in the county clerk's office had a server. Sheriff had a server. Circuit clerk had a server. So
So
that...
you didn't know where this stuff was being stored.
Right. We didn't know if the
If
backup...
it was ever getting backed up.
properly. The average age of our servers was over 10 years old. And the average age of all our workstations was about 7.5 years old. So
We had Windows 3.1 on some machines there. That's no joke. My gosh.
So we've replaced, we created a cloud, or a main server in our computer room, our main computer room. It's got generator power as a backup power source,
So climate control.
climate control, theoretically. Battery backup. Now we added this year our battery backup. One of them failed, so we added a redundant battery backup. So we've been working to really create a very stable environment. And so instead of spending our money on a person, we've put the money into infrastructure.
And the challenge is, there's several major challenges. Keeping it up to date. So 4 years down the road, we're not having to shell out for the whole thing again. So keeping it up to date is a huge challenge because there are some expenses that have bloated since we started here, licensing and things like that. The next challenge, and maybe the largest challenge, are these departments and elected officials do not have to do what we say.
Right.
So we have to work with them close, meaning Mindy has her own budget to spend on whatever she wants, and if she wanted no computers, she can make that decision to no computers. So we set this this system up for them to access, and so far, we haven't had to do any allocations or anything like that. It's just kind of worked out.
They do, the county clerk and the circuit clerk both have automation funds that they've given us whenever there's a project.
Yeah.
And in fact, really everybody's been good about anteing up when we need it, when we put the servers in. Literally every funding source put in something. Probation department.
Without having to do a percentage allocation.
Right, we did not. We asked for free will donations.
And we also have renters.
Right.
And connectivity we've done between this building and the main courthouse,
Yep,
with fiber optic.
right. So we've done all that. We're really pretty stable. We've seen our service dollars decrease from, now our IT guy was at $48,000 when he retired. And
Plus benefits.
plus Benny. I think our first year in, it's on here, but maybe we spent, our goal was to be even up, right? And it was maybe 36, 38 the first year. Last year, just on service, ongoing service that we pay area-wide was $17,500, something like that. We just looked at the number. So as we invested in our infrastructure, the service to maintain it obviously has gone down. So we've recovered that, or we've spent it instead on licensing, which is what's happening. So where we're at right now is that we asked, when we created our budget, we asked area-wide for their, recommendation of what's our next step. And they felt it was disaster recovery. Our current process is, we have an external hard drive. We back up to an external server every night that sits in our old email server, still, right? Still the old email server that sits in our server room. So it backs up to that, and then from there to an external hard drive, which every day Amanda, after her lunch, drives down to the bank and puts in a safety deposit box, and then brings the other one back. So we flip up that. So area-wide felt like the disaster recovery was somewhere we should put our money next. So we put in a budget of $35,000 for this year. There is some money coming in from other departments. 911, who didn't put any money into the server, offered us $10,000 towards that project. County recorder, $10,000, circuit clerk, $10,000. I had budgeted for public health $10,000 because that's what they gave historically, but they ended up budgeting $5,000, so it'll be $5,000. So we have money coming in to pay for this. So it won't come out of the general fund. It comes from these other funding sources. So at this point, I think we're ready to introduce area-wide. Jeff Baser is the president of area-wide, and Rusty Sowers is our go-to guy. I don't know what you're...
Officially project manager, but, okay. Go-to guys get the...
Yeah, he's our go-to guy. He knows, really, when we first...
Trusted advisor, we like that.
Right, trusted advisor. If I need something, if I have questions, really Rusty is the guy I typically call first. Rusty started really kind of the first technician that came on site. So he knows our infrastructure very well. So it's worked out. It's been a very good partnership. And on that note, I'll turn it over to you guys.
If I could, I'd like to draw some things on the board, which will
Great.
help me explain.
This is what I like.
It will help me explain a lot as to what's going on. First of all, one of the things we did in your primary data center, when we first set it up, is we built in redundancy. I'm going to draw some stuff up here and label it. These are switches. And my writing is terrible, so forgive me. Oh, we got fancy device here, might help you. Thank you. I think it made it worse. All right, almost done, then I'll explain. Over here is the courthouse, CH courthouse. As Troy mentioned, we have a fiber line, which is run over here, which is fantastic. And currently over here, we've already invested in a switch. So let me explain to you how this works.
We put in bigger than necessary fiber.
Yes, and that's great. What we have here when we first set this up is we put in 3 Dell R620 servers. We also have over here a T430 server. By the way, the R means rack mount, the T means tower. Yeah, not rocket science, that's the way it is. And we have connected to this an MD data storage device for your backups. These R20s are what we call hosts, virtual hosts. What that means is it's a physical server, but on it we can run multiple instances of the Windows Server operating system. Back in the old days, you had to have a 1-to-1 ratio. One physical server, one Windows server. It doesn't work that way anymore. On 2 of these servers, you're running 14 virtual servers right now. And the purpose of these is failover. You actually have redundancy in your current data center, which is fantastic. All of the data is stored on a SAN, which is a storage area network. That's your critical piece of equipment. On that piece of equipment, we have a 4-hour, 24/7 contract with Dell. And in the last couple of months, you've had 2 hard drives fail. They've been here in 4 hours with a new hard drive. And a single hard drive failure means nothing to the SAN. There's massive redundancy built in, so you never went down.
None of our users knew what was happening. Area-wide could see it, called me, we placed the service ticket with Dell. 4 hours later, within 4 hours, a woman shows up with a package for me, and within 20 minutes of that, a Dell service rep showed up and replaced it, and no user ever knew there was anything that happened.
And that's one of the advantages. In this situation, even if one of these hosts were to burn up, you experience no downtime. The other hosts automatically fail over in milliseconds, and your users will not get disconnected, not see any disruption. We also have dual switches, which again provide redundancy. If one switch fails, your network doesn't go down. The issue we have here is if we had a massive fire in the data center. We have no disaster recovery set up right now. And you know, is that likely? Hopefully not. But one of the prudent things that we recommend to our clients is a DR site, data center site. As you already know, we have a courthouse. I believe it's in the basement, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And we have fiber over there, and we already have a switch. So here's what we're proposing. We know what our budget is, and we've come up with a solution that I positively you're going to like. Due to the decrease in hardware costs and the increased performance provided, we are going to replace 2 of these servers with our 630s. Because of the power they have, we only need 2. We are going to move your backup server and storage over to the courthouse. We're going to move 1 of these over to the courthouse. We're going to keep these 2 as spares. So you're getting a complete data center refresh, a complete DR solution for just over $28,000, which is under budget and did not include anything as far as your data center refresh. So what this means now is what we're going to do is nightly, instead of backing up to this T430 in your current data center, we're going to back up over here. With the R620 over here, should a failure occur, we have the T430 over here with the MD device. What we do is we basically tell this R620, okay, your data is on the MD device, it spins it up, you're live. Now, what you will experience is loss of data from your last backup. That's a given. We could set up more frequent backups, which we may want to consider with the fiber line, but understand that no matter what, you're going to lose whatever from your last backup forward. But that's going to be maximum a day. And then this can come online immediately. Your switching infrastructure's here. All of your users throughout the county work.
And what it does is, in our current computer room, the main server, we have just now taken these 3-year-old computers, these 3-year-old servers, and updated them to a current year. So it helps with the refresh and keeping current,
Correct.
so we don't end up 10 years down the line, 5 years down the line, having to replace the whole thing.
So let's look 5 years ahead.
Yes.
Which, put a star by which things will need to be replaced, fixed, or serviced.
I would
5
probably,
years.
well, in 5 years, I'd probably be looking at replacing almost all of it.
All of it.
Yeah, no, because right now we're on a 4-year refresh year. So pretty much everything's getting refreshed every 4 years. And, you know, you wouldn't have to, but you don't want to get into what we call a forklift upgrade situation, which is where you were before.
Yeah.
That's why we recommend a 4 and at most 5-year refresh rate. Simply because the hardware technology changes so fast, it becomes so much more powerful. Sometimes you're forced to. Sometimes the software won't even run on the older
I mean,
hardware.
I think what, in my mind where I'm going is, like every couple years, we do one building or the other.
Yes, correct. And what we'll always want to do is what we're doing here. Put your high-powered new stuff in production. Use your older stuff over in the DR site. Because, you know, the DR site is designed to be temporary. If you have a fire, your insurance company is going to step in and pay for all the new hardware and all the labor to get it back up. Our goal is to use this never, but we want it there if we ever have to use it.
And then since we're a government entity, I'm sure there's laws in place that we have to.
Have everything.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
have to
you
keep
know,
our
the
data.
time is it
There's basically for each department, there's a retention period, and the Illinois State Archives has a reference manual for that. So,
Depends on what it is, Troy. Some stuff you can get rid of every year, some stuff you gotta keep 7 years, some stuff 5, it just varies.
I have 99 requirements on a
Whoa.
commission record and some health and
It's outrageous.
99.
some things need to destroy form as well.
So basically what we've engineered is a data center refresh with the exception of your SAN and then a DR site. Now the other thing that I need to mention is I sent Anita a quote to renew the service contracts on these 3 servers. That totals just under $6,000. We will recommend you not renew those and save that $6,000. Because if this single R620 fails, we have 2 more just sitting that we can fire right back up and go. So why spend the money on a service contract when you already have 2 spares? There's no need. So not only do you come in under budget, you save an additional $6,000 in budget for not renewing those service contracts. Questions?
Rusty?
Yes.
Rusty's familiar with
Okay.
our storage requirements, what we've got. I got 26,000 files that aren't backed up anywhere, and that's the most important information to keep tax cycle moving. And I was going to get a quote from DevNet. They can come in and scan our stuff and do it within about a month's time. Obviously, there's a fee with that. But do we have enough storage to hold those? I would assume they'd be in...
We should have enough storage. It depends. I'd like to know how much that's going to be, but yes, there's
I can find out.
storage right now, but we need to verify how.
I'm not,
What
no
they're-
photos or anything, just
Sure.
just a physical card with
Yeah.
all the sketches and stuff on.
They'll scan them to PDF,
Probably,
and
yeah.
then there's an estimate. I'm based on the current SAN configuration, how much space is used, I'm sure you.
Well, how much space is on the MD?
MD's 14 terabytes.
14
So, yeah,
terabytes.
there's both places. We would make sure that, yeah.
Your SAN is 8 terabytes. You're using about 4. So you're only using half the capacity on your
Right.
SAN. On your MD, I don't even think you're coming close to half your capacity. So you have a huge amounts of storage still left. So you're not looking at really any need to increase storage.
Okay. Good.
But we should definitely work on that together.
Yep.
So anyway, well, then, like I said, to give you, go ahead, Troy.
So with your proposal, you would have this all mapped out for us?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well,
And you would have you would have no downtime. Okay, there would be no downtime at all. Because the way this works, with your, it gets a little technical, with all your data here, we simply put one of these in place, bring it online, move the virtual servers over, which we can, and this is insane, we can do that while you're working, and you will not notice. Yeah, it's crazy. But we can actually migrate the virtual servers over to the 2 new hosts, take these hosts offline, move them over here, you have no downtime. Not a single thing. Which is
What
pretty
about
crazy.
switch updates and all that stuff? Will we need any?
Switch updates don't really need a 4-year refresh. We can go a little bit longer on those. At some point, you may want, the newest standard is 10 gig. You're at 1 gig now. I don't even know what cable they have there. Do they have cable that supports the same gig?
No, not necessarily.
Yeah, so right now there wouldn't even be anything.
And the performance we're seeing now is acceptable, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. But yeah,
And, yeah, because the one
I
issue with the
assume
10
nobody
gig
has
switches is
complaints? Yeah.
Yeah, you
I
need
don't
that,
care.
that backbone cable to support it, and recabling everything, that's gonna be outrageously expensive. So, we'll probably stay at a gig for as long as we possibly can. I mean, to put things in perspective, we're using a gig. We should agree to 10 gig, it's too pricey, it's too expensive. So, any other questions? You guys are easy.
So Rusty and I talked over the last month or so just about this process. And the question is, what does the committee want to do? Could we take this out for bids? Yes, but this is their configuration. That wouldn't be right for us to take what they just proposed to us and use it to source with a different vendor. That's issue one. So we'd have to hire somebody to come up with their own solution and write us an RFP to put out for bids. Issue one. Issue two is I am pretty overprotective of this system, only because if it goes down, I'm the call. So I like it never to go down, and I like it to be perfect. But that being said, if we went with a different vendor to save a little bit of money, I don't know how much we would save, some money, we would be letting another vendor come in and change or modify this network structure that we've worked with area-wide on for the last 4 years.
And how do you normally handle that? Because same with the hardware, I've always promoted us buying the hardware from area-wide because these department heads can go buy their hardware wherever they want. That's their call.
Mhm.
But then when it comes, I think most of them are realizing when it comes to installation service, we're better off having a standardized.
And that's what we recommend, but
But how do
you'd
you-
expect me to say that.
I know, but how do you do it with other businesses where, let's say, we're supposed to go out and get competitive bids, but we want to retain the person we contracted to do it? Do you still have people that go get bids?
We, very rarely. Luckily, our relationship with our clients is like our relationship with you. There's a very trusted relationship. You rely on us. We have a good track record, and that relationship makes.
But even if there's that relationship, we might still have to go out and get bids.
No, and that's right. And if you do, you do. And that's one of those things.
Russ,
Yeah, we basically kind of took bids to start out with. That's how we let them in the door.
Mhm.
and we hired a consultant.
Yep. And so we spent a lot of money to end up where we're at now, and if everybody's comfortable, I wouldn't want to see you doing anything different. It's, even though...
why isn't the relation, to you guys' point, when maybe it's the scope's changing, but when you decided that, okay, we're going to use area-wide...
Because it's a government entity, and we might have to get competitive bids.
If
But what I
it's-
mean, but at the beginning though, if the scope included all of this plus data retention, all that stuff, wouldn't it theoretically still be underneath that same scope? And this is just or no, it doesn't
I
work
don't
that way?
think
But
so.
Yeah,
Let's
it's-
get
it's-
started.
it's like-
Let's get started so small.
Right, sure. And I understand what Mike's saying, because we're going to another phase of where we started,
That's what I
because,
mean, yeah.
again, we started at nothing basically, because
Right.
we...
By the way,
Rick,
I'm sorry to interrupt, I forgot to mention, that price includes a UPS in this data center and a rack in this data center.
Okay,
So everything will be valid. The UPS is 220, and I don't know if you have 220 there, but not your electrical guy can have 220. So, but that's start to finish, that's everything, every piece of equipment, every transfer of data, everything.
So less than the 30,000 where we'd be required by law to get a bid, a competitive bid.
So what is the total amount that we're looking at then?
Well,
$28,103.06.
I mean, if we had to, we could bust that down into phases too, can't we?
well,
Yeah.
If
Not-
you go out for competitive bidding, you're not required to take the low bidder.
Correct.
Your only cost involved really is the processing of getting the bids.
Right, it's just a price check to show the transparency that we have. I don't think there's anybody in this room except for anyone that's viewed that way, because we just said it,
mhm.
protected it.
I am, of the network as a
And
whole.
I understand that, you know, we have a printer service provider that works here, and we've come in behind them and had to make some changes due to security issues. Maybe,
Mhm.
you know, you scan an email, it was going to the cloud, it wasn't staying within the county, and we didn't like that, so.
Right, right.
We're really hesitant to, I know what you mean, Anita.
Well, and I mean, truly, when something goes wrong, I don't know how this is statistically, it's after hours or on the weekends. It hasn't happened for some time,
Yeah.
but
But I'll
there's
hear.
nothing worse than that, 2 a.m. phone call from NIDA, because then I know it's not good. And I'm waking somebody up at area wide and we're meeting here. So I tend to be, I am. I want it to work, and I want it to not be a major part of my job, I guess. So,
When you look, how far we've actually come in 5 years. When did DevNet start for you, Bob?
DevNet was what, 6 or 7 years ago?
I think
We
2010.
thought that was a disaster when that started. No regrets there?
None. I mean, there's always, okay, when you're dealing with help desk, there's always some regret, but overall, the system works. I mean, obviously, you need to have to deal with a lot of updates, seems kind of, redundant, because you're doing updates when really there's nothing, and obviously when they change something, it always compounds something else, but that's just the nature of programming, and, but, yeah, no. In the big scheme, big picture, no.
So,
And that's not always easier. Remember when health department moved out here?
right, then we had,
How many talks did we have to have because I was not happy with, at first, with having to go through area wide. Because I thought that, at that time, I thought that the equipment we needed to purchase could be purchased elsewhere at a better rate. I very quickly learned that you get what you pay for.
Right.
And the service that comes along with the equipment through area wide has been phenomenal. I mean, really, it's well worth it.
you were right in there with the sheriff, too.
Oh,
The
yeah.
sheriff
Oh,
had-
I was, yeah.
We still have, I mean, we have,
So, but then
yes, he did. Yep.
we got that.
The one thing that I will tell you is the advantage of buying equipment from us. And this has happened, and it's a pain point for us, but if we buy a piece of equipment, and it's computer equipment, this happens, and we come and we spend 4 hours working on it, setting it up, and it has a problem, you don't pay for that 4 hours.
Right.
It's on us. If you supply us the equipment, because you bought it somewhere else, you pay for that 4 hours.
We do have one department that does buy all their computers from Tiger Direct, because they feel and how much work is that?
We see it, it's
Yep.
it's exponential, and,
It shows up on our bill, not...
Yeah, it is. It
See,
is.
that's part of the allocation process.
So the issue
Do
is,
what now?
you have a department that doesn't
We-
go with our
Equipment
defined
that you-
process. They want to do their
That
own
you come and
thing.
set it up, we don't have to pay for it.
No,
They
I'm
can do
saying
that.
it's bad equipment.
They
We
can do
spend
that.
4 hours trying to
But then-
troubleshoot it, and it turns out to be a DOA piece of equipment, or it has a bad motherboard, you don't pay for
I
that.
lost my train of thought.
Because if we supply the equipment, we warranty the equipment. Whereas if we don't supply the equipment, we don't warranty the equipment.
So the other
only
hand-
real issue is whether we would want to go out for competitive bids.
Right. And what we would do then, in my opinion, is hire someone to write an RFP. What they've done is give us what their most cost-effective solution is. You would write an RFP that just says something about designing and a disaster recovery solution.
Basically, what
We
that
wouldn't,
does is delay the whole process.
true.
Yeah,
Yes,
and
it will.
we don't, and that's their IP right there, that's their intellectual property. We can't
Right.
share that. We
Right.
shouldn't share that.
No, right.
So the other part of this, for Mike, that is, when it comes to purchasing the equipment from Area Wide, the other side of that is we're trying to get, this is difficult with all the
Here, I'll take it,
departments,
but we're
we're
going to want
trying
more
to get
copies.
all
I'll get more copies.
the workstations on a schedule to where nothing's more than 5 is max.
Yeah, we're at about 4 years old right now, and that's further down the line, but we did have, oh, good. You did make multiple copies.
Oh,
Perfect.
and color, too.
Nice.
Colors in our place, we didn't have.
No, we don't have color here.
My God, that's pretty expensive, that color.
I think
Yes, right.
this year, the people at 4 years was circuit clerk, there was 1 or 2 in treasurer that we did, and who else? Who else did we do? Circuit clerk, treasurer,
We won the license,
I don't know.
we'll do the license.
I can't think of it.
That's an old one.
So,
Somewhere there's a spreadsheet with all these.
right, we do have a spreadsheet with all the latest purchases, so we know who's up next.
It's a asset inventory that's critical to
Right, right.
your operation.
So this year, at 4 years, would be state's attorney, county clerk has 3, and treasurer has several, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I don't know how many of those got replaced. 2 got replaced this year. And then she has $4,600 budgeted in fiscal 17
Or however many you can get.
for however many she can get there. So those would be the ones at 4 years this year.
We're going to try to do that cycle too.
Yes, yeah, we've been working on that, haven't we?
Yeah, we're trying to get there.
I think it's worked out well so far. I mean, we've had a lot of activity in the past couple of months.
Yeah.
I think we need to move forward on this. I know we talked about it for 3 years. Last year, we had some budgetary issues that kind of like, whoa, were put on the back burner.
Well, not only that, we haven't had many IT meetings.
Correct.
But we need to map out what we're going to do for the next, we need to, maybe we should have another meeting next month so we can do our long-range forecasting, because that does have an impact on things like this too. You know, what we want to get done in 3 years, 5 years, 8 years.
I think you're right with, oh, excuse me. I
No,
guess,
go ahead.
one of the biggest things is we were starting with disaster recovery standalone, but one of the things we kept talking about was the warranty renewals, and those were coming up, and server refreshes and replacing the servers. So we tried to build that all into one, you know, like you said, like the inlet property component. So we tried to meet a bunch of objectives in one
Yeah.
budget, so.
Those expenses are bad, and so are these licenses.
Yeah, the license
They
needs
just irritate me.
support contracts.
You
Yep.
guys should be negotiating those for us.
Mostly, there's sadly, I don't know what your license, but the licenses we have to deal with, they don't negotiate.
No,
It's no fun.
And they'll come to check on that too, you know, and audit that, so.
because that's how much of our expenses percentage-wise, if you had to guess? Is it a quarter of it, a third of it?
Of our IT expenses?
Yeah.
I mean, for next year, those licenses go, and it has to do with the age of this equipment and how many went off. Our software licenses went from around $45,000 to $75,000, an increase of $30,000 this year, of which $15,000 related to this equipment here, that
Added.
because they went off their warranty period as new equipment. They came with, like those RG whatever.
R620 expired in January.
Right.
So when we get these 630s, can we negotiate something in up front to keep that?
That
longer?
price includes 3 years.
3 years. So what would it take to get 5?
I can price that for you.
Yeah, we might want to think about this long term.
It's tough, because it's all, you're going into the insurance industry then.
Right. But I mean, look at this hit we're taking this year, 30 grand on top of last year.
Extended service.
Mhm.
Actually, whatever that is should follow the same suit as the equipment rotation. So you
Yeah,
don't caught
it
with
needs
2
to be-
years.
I think, like you were saying earlier, have a long-term plan, so we never get hit with the $30,000.
And they could do 4-year, 3-year, 2-year, we could do 4 years.
We'll make
since
them
that's
match,
your standard,
yeah.
You know, cycling. But
If
once
they're on a
we-
3-year,
but
we're
once
on a
we do
4-year,
that-
then we're getting hammered.
But once we do that, we have to, regardless of the climate, we have to hold to that, otherwise we're going to get caught in that same
Mhm.
trap we got when we started. That's the hard part.
I think that's good. If we're gonna rotate things on a 4-year pattern, then
Sure.
that needs to be negotiated on a 4-year pattern too, otherwise,
And we'll get those prices.
otherwise we're paying for it and we don't have the new one.
And the good news, if you can look at the good news, because I hate paying these things too. I mean, I think we have 16 hosts in our data center. It's so painful. But you lock yourself into the price today. Because one thing you can count on, in 3 years, it's not going to be more.
Cheaper.
No, exactly. It will not go down.
And look what we can done with 30 grand for
Mhm.
this year. Could have done something else.
Well, I mean, the one thing too, and 30 grand is just, it's not really a true reflection. I mean, there's 14,000 that's related to this equipment, but we're putting in, and they'll talk about this, we did add things this year, like email archiving for an extra $7,000. We haven't had that in the past. That's new functionality that we budgeted for this year because we felt it was important. Server maintenance, and Rusty can talk about the importance of that, and patch management from a centralized system. That's an extra $2,000. So what we're doing is adding functionality, adding services that further protect our network that we haven't had in the past.
The data protection component of the backups has been an issue as of late. We've spent a lot of time addressing the off-site backup.
Yeah.
And so what the DR kind of, what it allows us to do is create an off-site backup that's live and more stable
Right.
and a supported data center. So, and then we kind of go into the other issues, but that's the priority.
Right.
But as far as like server maintenance, yes, we have to stay on top of those. You have to put patches on the servers, update them, update the firmware, the hardware, all of it. It's all very important. And there's time, it takes time to do that. But we kind of built something into that for each server. So there's 14 servers, and we had talked about monitoring and patch management of those servers. And so that was going to be like $10 a server per month.
Yeah.
Updates and monitoring on that. So
And that is part of, this list right
But-
here is all the recommendations that area-wide made for this fiscal year's budget. And they did this last July, and these were all approved and built into the budget.
How many people or business or entity the same as ours, our size, are using tape?
Oh, very, very few.
they're going away from it. Not very many, maybe 5% that want to get away from it or have to use it.
So, the problem with tape is people don't understand you have to test your tapes.
And then you have to get it back off there and
Exactly. If you don't test your tapes, you can go to Restore and find that tape is recorded nothing, because the software can actually report 100% successful and have no date on the tape, which is frustrating. So you actually have to test periodically, once every 6 months, once every 3 months, restore a few files off that tape to make sure it's actually
Man
functioning.
throws it on the dash of the car and
Leave it on the bake.
Yeah, exactly. Heat
Take
it up
the
a
corner,
bit.
fly to the floor, survive for a couple weeks.
Mislabeled, lost, stolen, out, anything.
There's human error, there's too much
Yeah,
human.
too much human involvement.
Treat it like the old 8-track.
What are, is it Colorado? What kind of tape is it?
They, Seagate, Colorado, I mean, and there's various sizes. I mean, there's some big units with tape libraries where they fill up and they go, sticks another tape in. There's a lot of just individual tapes, and they take them off-site. You know, I have to tell
So
you.
what is ours?
Ours is a hard drive.
Yours is a USB hard drive.
It's just, okay.
Yeah, which is far more reliable than tape, and it can be tested immediately if you so choose to test it. And the fact that you're actually taking it off-site is, you're in the 1% of our clients.
I think we were required to do that.
Yeah.
But we recommend it, but it doesn't mean anything. I mean, we had a client who had a fire, and we went in to get their tape back up, and it was a smoldering pile of plastic on their desk. And that was problematic for them, to say the least. So most people don't take them off-site, so the fact that you do is excellent.
There's no end to risk management.
You're right, you're right.
So what do we need to do with the team?
Well, I know we talked about this for a couple of years now. I think we need to be get moving, but at the same time, if we got some issues with people feel that competitive bidding, I really feel that we already bid in a contractor, and that contractor's working for us, so I think we already went through the steps. Regarding that issue, I would like to see us stop running to the bank every day with a, I mean, just,
How much time is that? Is that, you know,
well,
an hour a
15
day?
minutes.
well, by the time you get up there and back, it's a 45-minute trip, I'll guarantee you. You know, there's a train, stops all the traffic, it doesn't move for a while.
It's 15 minutes.
Well, on a,
She gets here at 12:15. She leaves for lunch at 11. She gets back at
I'm sure she gets
12:15.
challenged occasionally because of other traffic conditions.
Thank you.
Where's the funding, and all the places the funding's coming from?
Circuit clerk, county clerk,
You have those in the book?
yep, I do.
You said you had more than enough.
Yeah. County recorder, automation fund, $10,000. Circuit clerk, $10,000. 911, $10,000. Public health, $5,000. That's $35,000.
And that was all in our budget.
Mhm.
Because we
Right.
discussed this
Right.
4 months ago.
Yep,
And technically, that's what these automation funds are for.
correct.
Well, yeah.
But there's never been, like I said, the unique thing is we've never had to do a percentage allocation on those. Just work. Because we can do that by usage, right?
Yes, we,
Consumption,
yeah, we've kind of broken it down by percentage on prior occasions.
workstations, et cetera.
I think the difficulty was in holding that, a specific department to that percentage because of the funding available,
Mhm.
you know, or something like that, I think. But I'm not too well versed on these things.
Yeah, when we put the actual, this server in, we looked at how much every department uses and looked at allocating that way, but unfortunately, a lot of the bigger users, they don't have the funding sources, so it didn't quite work out the way we wanted. So we just asked for what people can give, and we've never had a problem.
Yeah, we've been very fortunate the last few years
Very fortunate.
in all departments.
Yep.
I think we need to move forward with this. You're looking for a motion to wait? You're waiting. Move forward with our, what we call our data center refresh and IT disaster recovery program. Is that the correct terminology we want to use with this?
Correct.
Disaster repression.
Do we, I mean,
You could put as presented in the proposal.
as far as aligning this with the longer-term plan though, or something, that,
Well, I think what I was going to do is that when it comes to new business is, I don't know if you can come back next month, but maybe we should start our milestones then. Because nothing will be physically done by then, but we can, if something else comes up, we can deal with it. Is there a motion?
Second motion.
Is there a second to the motion?
is there any further discussion? If none, let's call a roll.
McTaggart?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
Crumwoody?
Yes. Okay. So the next item of business, we pretty much covered all that, correct?
We did, I
Budget
think,
items.
Rusty, what we wanted to talk about on the next thing is like timing of some of the projects for fiscal 17 that were budgeted and when we want to roll these things out. Isn't that what you and I talked about last week?
Yeah,
Like
sure
These types
thing.
of things. These are new activities that we haven't done in the past.
Yeah,
And so,
yes.
do we want to start them now? Do we want to implement disaster recovery first and get this done and set and then look at it? Or do we want to do this stuff first? Rusty can talk to that.
Yes, sir.
Before we start, I'd just like to make a comment on what we just did, and that is that I don't think we should in any way, shape, or form consider this as setting a precedent for not going out for competitive bids. I know with the management committee, we do that frequently. There's instances where it's come up where we have and haven't, but I think each situation needs to be looked at separately, that we're not, by doing this, encouraging others not to get competitive bids. Just
One other
that
thing-
so we understand what we're doing and why we're doing it.
Agreed, John. One other thing we've done in the past is we've actually got an outside opinion too, like a second opinion. That helped. That actually changed things a couple times too, where we actually found a better solution. No, agreed.
Yeah, that's all I had.
Ready?
Yeah, so we had talked about certain longer-term milestones for the county, what we'd like to see in place right now on servers, endpoints, the network in general. And so originally we came up with, we replaced the entire infrastructure, we replaced the networking, but there's these other long-term things that we need to have in place to address common issues related to cybersecurity or just general maintenance or best practices. And so one thing that we talked about was patch management and monitoring of the servers. These are Windows servers and they need to be updated regularly, and so there's 14 of those. They basically, we deploy patches to these and update the servers, and then we also have monitoring on them for health issues, say like a disk failure or a security event. And in addition to that, it allows us to create a single point on the network that distributes Windows updates Right now, every computer is going out to the network and using its own chunk of bandwidth for updates. And so once a month, every Tuesday, we have a
Spike.
yeah, we have a spike, a bottleneck basically, and it just shouldn't be that way. But we've been recommending it and working on it for a long time, so we finally have made it to this point where the server operating systems, they need patch management and monitoring, and then workstations, we'd like to at least get patch management running on them. These are updates. These are well, basically we at our facility or in our lab, in our environment, we test these updates on our system, then we deploy them to your environment.
And one of the things that
don't just-
is a concern is that we assume everyone who's got a computer, when it says Windows updates available, go get them, we're assuming that each user is being responsible and going out there and getting them, right, and downloading them, and then going through the process. When it says do not turn your computer off, right, during this time, we're assuming that they're not getting impatient because it's 4:31 and they want to go, and just turning their computer off and leaving, so they don't properly update. So what this would do is take it out of the hands of each individual user, and it would be centrally deployed, so those workstations get updated, with the exception of anyone who's got a laptop that may leave it, take it home with them. That would be the only time you'd have an issue.
We get
Right.
those too. We'll
You
get
do?
those too, yeah, but it goes through a separate pathway, but just directly to our servers. But yeah, it's nice. It's a nice feature. And so we're also talking about updates in the form of these address zero, what we call security issues like vulnerabilities. So anytime you hear of a cybersecurity issue in the news, it's related to an exploit on a Windows system or an Adobe system or an HP printer driver. This patches that immediately because we have the update and we've deployed it. Here we don't know if that's occurring, or sometimes users might be selecting an update they don't need and causing an issue with the system. I think this will reduce your overall basically service as well and support. But we're talking about 100 systems, workstation operating systems, and 14 server systems. Does anyone have any questions on this? Or Jeff, do you have anything you want to add?
No, I might add that the third-party management updates includes about 75 different software packages. And you may not have 10 of those deployed, but Adobe's one, for example. You know, and Java is one. How many times you get a Java update?
Yeah.
These will all be handled automatically by our data center service pushing this information out. The other thing this allows us to do, which is pretty nice, is it allows us the ability, with the user's permission, we can't do it without their permission, to remotely connect to that PC. So if a user calls in and says, hey, I'm having a problem, we can establish a remote session where we see their screen top, they can see our mouse movements, and we can walk through the problem remotely versus on site, and hopefully, typically 95% or greater of the time fixing problems. That this agent is what we call it, that we deploy, allows us to do that.
We're doing that now.
Yep.
Yep.
We
that's
are doing that now.
yeah.
It's a little bit more sophisticated,
Oh, okay.
in that we can do a few more things,
All right.
is all.
Big money saver.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge.
Service call.
Yeah.
So did you have any questions on the service, or we were kind of, Anita and I had discussed it, whether or not we want to turn the service up now or after disaster recovery. Due to the cybersecurity issues out there, we want to turn it on now. We've wanted it on for a long time, but that's
Yes.
kind of something that we wanted to bring here. So another thing we had talked about was email archiving, and I think what I'd like to do here is actually further research our solution, make sure we have the right tools here to actually archive your mail. We're going to be back in a month. Is that acceptable to everyone here?
That'd be
Okay.
great.
Yeah, because you have to have some records available. Each department has its own rules, right? And email, as far as email goes, or any public record. And so we have a couple of options here. We want to make sure we get the right one, basically.
And interject something here. We also, and I don't know if you guys need this, we have a lot of clients who do, we have the ability to allow you to send secure emails.
Mhm.
And if that's something you're interested in, let us know. So, you know, sensitive information, for example, from the health department.
It's going to get, that's going to be required.
Yeah.
An encrypted email.
And the end user gets it encrypted and it decrypts, so nobody can intercept that on the wire and read that email. Because right now, your emails are not secure. Nobody's emails are secure. It's just plain text going across the wire. So, again, an option, just something for you to consider. Let you know that it's out there.
IDPH has warned us that that's coming.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I'm sure it is, especially for you.
It would make
With
sense.
HIPAA.
Yes, it's coming.
Most of you probably received secure email, right?
Mhm.
I don't even know if my...
Oh, yeah? You don't?
You
Yeah.
can't get in them.
Yeah.
It
Yeah, you
takes
have
an
to log
extra
in.
10 minutes to get into an email.
That's the idea. They want to make sure you're the individual it was intended for, and that it's not readable on the wire. Basically, like Jeff said, it's plain text.
I don't know how, the one I'm talking about is a customer, so I have to log into their...
Right.
So that's why it takes so much longer, and sometimes you can't get in at all.
Yeah. They don't.
And then it has to download the encryption. It takes, it's just to open a regular email, it is up to 5 minutes.
That's a long time.
Mhm.
And by the way, when you do this, you choose which emails are encrypted and which ones aren't.
Mhm.
It's not all of them.
Yeah.
So if you're emailing your wife about dinner, you know, you just send it.
I'm sure that never happens on county
Company
time.
time.
I wouldn't be allowed to come home for dinner if I sent that one.
Usually it's, I'll take you out.
Just text it.
Well, one of the things that's been happening, I don't know, maybe this isn't even an issue, is, because I don't understand it. There have been a lot of retirees at the Illinois Department of Public Health. They all have, you know, the Illinois.gov email. We assume when we get an Illinois.gov email, it's a legitimate email. We open it. Because there have been so many retirements and so many people switching jobs that we don't know who's running what department now. I mean, it's unbelievable, even the lateral moves that were made at the state level. So all these people are transferring from this department to this department. And so we're just, if it says Illinois.gov, we're assuming that it's got to be one of our new people, and we're opening it. But I recently got an email from Anita, you know, saying, you know, be careful about that, because, and she's right, we need to be careful about that, but we don't know if that's going to be an email that I need.
Well, you can, at times, I've looked at emails before where it says it's from, you know, I mean, I might get an email on my personal email that says it's from Louise Bruins, and I think,
Yeah.
why would she be emailing? You hover over it and right-click, and it will tell you the actual address. Somebody spoofed it off, you know, my email and sends it in her name, and so that's one thing you can do, is you have to be...
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when you can see the address and it says it's an Illinois.gov address.
Generally, opening an email will not hurt you. Clicking on a link or opening an
Right.
attachment
Right.
in the email
That's
is where
right.
the danger arises.
Right.
So, you know, I got an email, oddly enough, from my ex-high school girlfriend yesterday that said, Carol, you might enjoy it.
So you knew it was wrong.
You that was a problem. Said, click on this link, I think you'll enjoy it. Well, knew what that was.
Right.
And that was a mail spoof with probably a CryptoLocker virus or whatever, and deleted it immediately.
Right.
So, you know, there's some, and you guys, everyone in this room is aware of it, but some of your users may not be aware that there's some user education involved.
Yeah.
I have a particular client who's been a lifelong friend of mine. They get a CryptoLocker at your house because they open everything and click on everything. And I just say, you guys, thanks for keeping me in business, but you need to quit doing this.
Yeah, and we know that, and we do, but when you think it's going to be a legitimate, you know,
Right.
so-and-so from Illinois.
Usually the content, though, will tell you.
Right.
You know, when you open it, when you start to read it, you're going to know pretty quick, hey, okay, this is such and such, or this isn't.
Right. If it tells you, right, and Jeff is right in that in most of those cases, when you read the embedded message, and I think that's what happened in the one that went out, I can't remember who it was, it was a government entity that had, an old head of that department they had switched his email, but there was a link within it, or the John Podesto, change your password.
Yeah, right.
Don't ever do that. Don't ever do that. Call me.
Yep.
Although,
What do you got an eye, Bill?
I just don't think we want the Russians in here, because really that's who it was.
Jeff, I figured you were worried about that.
No.
Well, what can happen here is if you get an email and it asks you to enter your password,
Right.
and they enter the password, they can
Right,
compromise other accounts, or they can compromise your account.
right.
But what we've seen happen is wire transfers be initiated after that point, and then they actually go through because the bank didn't verify or something like that. But Jeff mentioned crypto, and what CryptoLocker is it's what it does is it's a piece of malware that if you open the email and you run it just right, it's going to start encrypting all your files, and it's going to jump on the server and start encrypting all the server files. And then what's going to happen is a message is going to appear on your screen, and it's going to say, you owe us X amount of dollars if you ever want your files back.
And we have had that happen here.
And that's
What did we lose? Two workstations out of that? Literally fried them.
Yeah.
And we did not pay the ransom. We were able at that point to rely on our backup. We lost a little bit of data.
Right.
But everything on that server, we talked about 14 servers. You guys didn't see it because it wasn't on your server. But that server had to get restored from the night before, and that took care of it. That's the other key thing to do with making sure you have
Having that
good backup.
help us.
Yeah.
The threat, number one threat vector, though they call it, or the source of security issues is through email, though. So
Right.
being vigilant and user awareness and having an idea of what you're looking at is very helpful. So, but yes, we're kind of retooling that email archiving solution. We just want to research it, make sure we have everything we need here. The next step is on here is hardware and software licensing inventory, and just making sure that your Windows OS licensing is compliant. Any other licenses we have out there as far as Adobe Acrobat or say like Microsoft Office, Windows Server, Windows 7, Windows 10. Basically, all of these devices have their own licensing, or they're tied to a licensing. In fact, what we don't want is any counterfeiting going on, any illegal copies of any Microsoft products out there, because that's not good as far as if they were to audit, it becomes a high-cost situation in the end. Pay more later as far as instead of pay less now. So we want to identify any issues with any software licensing with this audit, and this is also an inventory of all your licenses, because we have our inventory of what we've provided, but we need a full inventory and tracking of all the licenses out there as well.
And you get all of this documentation.
Yeah.
Every machine, every software installed on it, every license key being used, so you have a complete record of everything you have in case some sort of auditor shows up.
Any questions on that one? Data center table management. I'm not sure how many of you have been in the data center recently. I know we went in there once for the UPS, but we upgraded the entire server infrastructure, and we upgraded the networking infrastructure, but there's some connections there that need to be upgraded as well. Basically, we're looking at kind of a mess between the network and the servers, and implementing something that fits best practices and kind of follows, the raceways and the cable management is labeled a little bit better would be ideal here. A lot of our networking problems are sourced from cable management issues, and we've talked about this one for a while. Is why I bring
Is there
it.
hardware in there too, cables and stuff included in that quote?
Yeah, that's why. We tried to kind of estimate it to that level. So what we're looking at is getting from that server rack to to where the firewall is located and the switching. And so there's some raceways and some other things there, and also fiber protection. And I think there's a little bit more to than that, though. I need to verify the scope of that. But basically, we just need to make sure that it's clean, because we can't go in there right now. We should be able to walk Anita through it, or another user, say maintenance or whoever it may be. We should be able to call and say, hey, we need you to disconnect port A7. And they should be able to go in there, disconnect port A7. That's not a possibility right
Yeah.
now.
It's clean today compared to the way it used to look.
I know,
Yes, well as the desk and,
right.
yeah.
But it's a long ways from...
If
Are
you have
the
any,
ceiling
you
tiles
should
all
stop
in?
in, we'll show you, we can show
Are
you
the ceiling
that.
tiles in and everything? Or is that
Yeah.
still-
Yeah.
Most of them are.
Most of them are in. The issue becomes from a security standpoint, and we dealt with this in, down in USDA. When we redid USDA, part of their security was you could not have ceiling tiles because that's a security issue. Somebody can go up, go in, go down. That's what we have. It is a security risk. Somebody could go in from the outer hallway, crawl across, and go in the data center. We had to put in actual drywall ceiling down there in order to pass the federal government requirements. Right, but we don't have that. When we get everything else taken care of, I think we can concern ourselves with it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of old cable that's just sitting up there on the ceiling.
How about kick in the door and walk in?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Is that a hollow core door?
Yeah.
too?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
You can add the next thing on this list is IC Exchange Virtual Machine Optimization. This kind of ties into the archiving, so we're going to come back to that next month, if you guys don't mind.
Yeah.
We talk about that a little bit more next month. Network optimization for data virtualization and management. That is us coming in, for a few hours and actually reviewing the data center configuration for the switches, the firewall, and the data virtualization switching. And so that is more of just like something we could do. We could work with you on, Anita, over time, a couple hours here and there. But I just had it noted here, but on my notes anyway. And so I guess the biggest decision today, as far as how we move forward, is are we going to turn up that service for patch management and monitoring, and can we move forward with planning a licensing inventory and assessment. One last thing, the security assessment. One thing we had talked about quite a bit was a security assessment, and what we kind of want to do here is review the entire infrastructure for major gaps and holes in coverage, anything like that, so we can address any known major issues as far as cybersecurity is concerned. We had a recent issue that came up that was kind of concerning, so it kind of led us down a path where we kind of want to harden the server environment and the networking a little bit, but we want to do that in the form of a kind of a cybersecurity gap assessment and remediation. And also check for any wireless devices that are out there that are somebody's brought in and is using that connects to this network. And there's so many different vectors or sources of security issues. We kind of need to go through all of them and address them, the ones we can, and list the other ones for addressing them later.
The other thing you get out of this, because we're real big on
Yeah.
documentation, is
Yeah.
a complete document
Yep.
that details, not what IP addresses or passwords, because we don't put any of that in there, but the status of your security. So again, if a state auditor comes in because a big state breach has happened, you can hand them this document and say, here's our security, and you're done.
Yeah.
Gives them everything they need. So,
Full report. Any questions on that one there? Okay. Anita, were you wanting me to move on to some of the additional items, or kind of, last spring we We got the redundant UPS. We talked about that a little bit. Basically, there's one power source in the server room, and it failed. It caused a network failure for all users. All users were affected and could not work until we could bring the power back online in the data center. So we replaced that as part of the warranty, but then we added a second UPS, and that is functioning. As I said, we talked about that a lot, didn't we?
Yep.
Did you have any comment there? Or?
Never heard of such a thing.
Yeah. No?
But it happened.
No, I actually, yeah.
We talked about it because we ended up having to, in the meantime, until we got the replacement in, we had to run down, NIDA loaned us a UPS, and I had a couple just small UPSs for workstations that we cobbled together 3 different UPSs to make everything work on an interim basis until we got the replacement UPS here.
Can I ask you a question? We have heat sensor in the server room.
We have a temperature sensor on the temperature. Yeah, actually, we got the second one, and I think, but, yeah, a temperature meter.
Okay.
Temperature reader?
We didn't have
With
one in our
notifications.
server room, and I came in on a Saturday, and thank heavens, and I smelled smoke. I walked into our server room, and my UPS is billowing white smoke, still running, but near in flames. And we didn't have temperature sensor. And if I hadn't been there,
Yeah.
I don't want to think about that. Now, I had to pull the plug, and everything went clunk. You know, it goes from all the fans to no noise. And that's really not a good sound. But we had to replace our UPS too, because it literally caught on fire. So a temperature sensor is important.
Mhm.
Who does that?
That notification is supposed to go to us.
Okay.
It's supposed to go to help us. So,
You probably ought to include it in email.
yeah. Yeah.
Not that you want to get
Yeah,
it.
that's a good point.
Bring your fire extinguisher.
You got a contract with Senso or something then?
What's that?
Senso?
No. So this is actually, I had to research this fairly heavily for another client of ours, and you know, there's so much, like, so the temperature sensor uses your email server to send an email out. That email. If the temperature rises too much to shut down the server, the email is not going to go out. So I've kind of, we proposed and introduced systems that use SMS and text messaging. They use cell phone technology instead of, you know, just like a home alarm board, I guess. But that bypasses the email server, sends out an alert, a temperature alert. And so that's for that added protection. I think that we would get an email before, an email notification here before the temperature got too high. But there is that question that it could happen if it spikes too fast.
That's important.
Okay.
We have a hardware refresh for the circuit clerk, treasurer's office, public health, and I think those went well. The systems are in place. We are functioning well. But Mindy's here and Steve's here. So how do you guys feel about your new systems? Are they working well and are they in place? And
We don't have a problem, haven't
Okay.
had any problems. I have
we're
a minor issue that needs to be worked out, but
Yeah.
it's not going to be a problem enough.
okay. Okay, and basically we went with a spec that reduce any bottlenecks so we don't have slowness issues on the computer. The network's another issue. It can be slow sometimes because of the update issue, but we just wanted to make sure that, you know, these will last you for the time expected, 4 or 5 years even. So I think we did that here. But please let me know if there's anything out there, because I do want to know as far as those computers. And our help desk is really good, right? You guys, I mean, please let our help desk know or let me know, and we'll definitely jump on it.
But we can't use that. We have to go through Anita, right?
That's true. Yeah, that's a good point. So Dee and Mindy will let Anita know, who will let me know. Yeah, but please do. Yeah, we definitely want to address any issues that are out there if there are any. So the last item, or the next item, is basically, it relates to information security, recommendations and guidance, and some of the things that we're looking at, there's what we call cybersecurity threat landscape. I'm sure you've heard something about cybersecurity or have some awareness of hacking or crypto or anything like that. So we just want to make sure we're reducing what we can, reducing any attempts at cybersecurity issues or exploit or malicious activity on the network. So we're kind of, so the patch management kind of addresses that. The security assessment is going to help us with that. But then we're moving forward, like say next month and over the next couple of months, it would be nice to talk about that a little more and actually come up with a plan to address some of the known issues we're going to find during the security assessment, because we expect like there's stuff I know about in the network that, or in my daily interaction with Iroquois County systems, that they either are too big to fix all at once or need to be fixed here and there, that have evolved over time. It's not necessarily that they've been there this whole time. It's just that we need to address these as they come up. So basically, we'll talk more about that over the next coming months if you guys are open to it. And then there's really, I don't really have much else right now.
Yeah, the
I guess I
future
didn't know
information systems that we put on the list only because we know, Troy, you've talked about in the past about how we look mid-range and long-range of what the next things were.
Yeah.
But it sounds like we'll just add that to next meeting,
Yeah.
next month's agenda.
It falls into what you guys were talking about as far as the schedule and 4 years, 5 years, right? So that makes sense to me too. So that works for me. I just wasn't sure. See, it's been about 3 months since I was here last, maybe longer. So we got to fit a lot in sometimes. So
Well, all this
Thank
we
you.
approved for budget reasons. Do we need to continue to make motions to progress with it? Okay.
We
I
don't,
didn't think so.
we don't need to, because it is budgeted, but we just wanted to kind of bring you up to speed. And the big question for us, Rusty and I, as I talked through, I just wanted to kind of remind everybody, because it's been 5-6 months since they've been here, these are things that are budgeted. So other than the data center cable management, that one is not budgeted. That was an additional need, not a critical need. So that one didn't make the budget for this year. That's $3,250 was the last estimate. So we'll kind of see how the year goes on, and if it's something I can squeeze in from a service contract standpoint, we may address that later on in the year, but it's not something we can look at right now. But the key for Rusty and I was just, do we do the patch management and really email archiving turn up? Do we want to look at doing that now, and the licensing inventory now, or do you want to hold off 30 to 60 days and wait till after the DR solution is in and up?
The backup. That.
Right. Disaster recovery. I know, now I'm throwing in these terms that I really...
What's the advantage in waiting?
Sometimes you explore things or discover things in the process that, yeah.
Well, the other...
that's how it's going with the excuse me.
Go ahead.
The email the archiving. That's how that is kind of developing. Basically, right now with email archiving, if we were to add that service with secure messaging, it's a costly service. It might be. We just want to kind of explore all of our options and see what we can come up with that benefits the county and will be a better long-term solution for archiving and e-discovery or communication basically for email. So that's.
I would recommend the patch management now, because it doesn't interfere with anything. It has nothing to do with the DR, and it gets all of your machines on the same patch level, and provides the security that Microsoft releases when, Microsoft is notorious for releasing patches. We all know that. But to stay current with them is always a best practice. So I would recommend that you do that one now. Postpone the email archiving, postpone the cable.
Yeah, $2,100.
And do that.
Yeah, move forward on.
So how do we do that?
You
Sorry, bud?
just tell us.
No, but I mean, internally here, Anita, do we just, so it's record it. You're going to go ahead and do that, correct?
Yeah, I'm going to coordinate with,
But so it's in the minutes, we know we decided to do that.
Consensus
This
of the
morning.
committee that we need to move forward on our patch management.
solution. And what will happen is, next month on the agenda, I'll go ahead and put that on, and then we can report in on where we're at with that.
So also on the agenda, also on the agenda will be our milestone
Mhm.
planning, the long-range one.
It's just the patch management that we're moving forward with, is that correct?
Yeah, the consensus of the committee give Anita the green light, so nobody shoots at her.
License reduction, put that on the agenda. Money for nothing.
Keep things out of track.
And you are going to check on this, if we match those up time-wise?
Yes, I'm going to get a price revision for the 4 years.
That way we wouldn't get stuck with any overage.
Correct. And I think it makes sense, if we're on that 4-year cycle, let's go 4 years so makes good sense.
Good job, Russ.
Documentation, don't upload this to the cloud.
show up. Anyone can reach out, I guess.
Yeah, right.
When we first started this, we did the whole outlay over there, and I didn't even know what a virtual server was when we started this.
Yeah, I recall that, yeah.
Stayed on the board for about a month or so.
Silos, I thought that was something we built outside.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
So is that, any other questions for Rusty?
Thank you for your time and listening. I could probably go on for some time.
Trust me.
And
IT
done.
guy, but I'm going to stop, so thank you. Yeah, he hasn't listened to me all the way here, so he's done. Pay the dues.
A lot of education.
So the next item, are there any other IT issues need brought before the committee?
Anyone? Nothing?
If none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make that motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? Second. Mike. All in favor to adjourn, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Meeting